Hey guys, if you're looking for help with your Amazon business in terms of troubleshooting or strategy, visit sellersessions.com/consultancy or drop me a message to danny@sellersessions.com. Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Again, I bring back Liran, who's disappearing in the chair. He keeps losing more and more weight. He's looking handsome. How much you've done so far, mate? You're doing keto, aren't you? I used to do keto.
Yes, I'm doing keto. I'm drinking my bulletproof coffee right now.
Yeah.
And I've lost a little over like 20, maybe 22, 23 pounds.
That's incredible. There's not much of you anyway, so that's a lot of weight to lose, isn't it? But
yes, yeah, I needed to lose some weight, and thankfully my business partner Andy Slammons, one day says to me, "Hey, I'm starting keto. Are you in?" Yeah. And that was the push that I needed to lose some weight. So very thankful.
Yeah, you're looking healthy. I want to actually do a show on health at some point because we all run ourselves into the ground in this business.
Yes.
And it's so important. But we'll say that for another day. But today,
yes,
what I want to talk about with you is a Black Friday. Now, we've only got a little amount of time left, but let's go for a big checklist of things that people can do to give to their VAs. I'll make sure all this is in the show notes so they can just listen to the show and just cut and paste everything that we have to utilize and just hand off to members of the team. Because obviously we know it's one of the most important parts of the year. And if you mess this up, it's unforgivable. So, So
you only get one chance.
You get one shot per year to get this right.
Yes.
Exactly. So let's start with listings. So the first point I would say is check for your hijackers on your listings. Now, on the day, you're not going to be able to do a huge amount. We know that there's a lot of issues with hijacking. That's a primary time for them to jump on your listings. But if you spot them beforehand, be vigilant, get your C&D letters in place, just go hard, clean up and try and get them off the listings. Your take.
And do whatever it takes to not give up the buy box to a hijacker, even if it means lowering your price by $1 or $2. I mean, if a hijacker has the buy box and they're getting sales and they're shipping from China and it's counterfeit, you're going to get negative reviews on the amount of time it takes to ship the product. You're going to get negative reviews on the counterfeit, and it can really kill your listing. So make sure that you own the buy box and don't give it up.
Yeah. Check listings for suppressions. If you've got big accounts like we do for the agency, it's easy to get lost with hundreds of products where you've got issues where there's limitations, they suppress the listing due to images and stuff like that. So always log into Seller Central, take a look on your inventory page, and generally it gives you a realization of what you need to do to remedy the issue.
Yes, and especially also if you're playing with pricing around this time and trying to raise your price and you raise it too high too fast for Q4, you might get a suppressed listing. So use a tool. Right now is a great time to use a tool like SentryKit, for example, that's going to give you a lot of these alerts throughout Q4. I use SentryKit, and it gives me alerts about all these things: suppressed listings, category changes, hijackers, reviews. A really good tool that I recommend that you get.
Yeah, this is something that you would do manually on the day. So covering another sector here, PPC and indexing. Check ad positions manually on your PPC ads on your main keywords, because it's all good being an after timer. Data comes through later and it's too late. You can't get Black Friday back. So on the morning, like I'm based in the UK, so I have to work out my timelines for the UK mornings. I have to work out my timelines for the US. So depending, some people are working in Asia and stuff. So it's important. Understand knowing your timelines to look in the morning and do searches on your main keywords. Make sure, in some cases, if you've got problems, we've discussed this on the show before, that you need to make sure that if you're logged into your account, make sure that you've got the delivery addresses, location in the US or wherever it is, not where you are, like say the UK or if you're in Asia or whatever.
Right.
But check those up front because it's too late to take it back afterwards.
Right. Yeah. You want to make sure, and you want to do it, ideally you want to do it ahead of Black Friday, right? To make sure that you can sort of play around with some stuff in PPC if you're not showing up for your main keyword. What if you're not getting impressions for main keywords? Well, if you have some time, you might set up a new campaign. You might be able to increase your bids, or you might be able to do some things.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
totally. I meant when I said that on the day, totally agree. Do it beforehand. But where you can get surprised is if you don't do it on the day and everyone whacks their bids up, you might not be in the upper echelons of the ad position. So you're not getting any
right,
visibility because
right,
people have gone on that morning, they've jacked their bids up, which gives, they've thrown a curveball out of left field for you. So that's why you
right.
should check on the day as well.
Yes, right. Yeah. So great idea. Check beforehand and check on the day. Check on the day as well.
Now, we know there's multiple indexes, so we've got to look at it from not just a PPC point of view. So going over to organic keywords, making sure that all of your main search terms are indexed organically, your titles and your bullet points, and make sure you index your back-end keywords. Analyze is a tool for that. It's free. It's a Chrome plugin, and literally within the browser, it's very straightforward. It just highlights in green or in red. For green if it's indexed, red if it isn't. You can obviously deal with any issues there.
Cool. Oh, so I wasn't even aware of that. So that's a Chrome plugin called Analyze or Analyze?
It's called Analyze, Analyze, yeah. So do a search in the Chrome store for that. Because there's some great tools out there, paid, unpaid tools. But when you've got to cut and paste all the details in, it just becomes monotonous. But if you've got 100 listings to check, all you've got to go to is to the product page, and then you select a highlight for the bullets and the title, etc. It just highlights it in place for you, so you can get an idea exactly what's going on and deal with it then, instead of trying to cut and paste everything into another document.
Got it. Okay, cool.
The next one is review. Like, we're going to have different processes. We have the same with the agency. Everyone has different strategies. But one of the things I always say to people, make sure you review your daily budget caps, because often people run out of budget. You may not touch your bids. Depends on your strategy. You might go hard. You might be conservative. You might wait until people burn through their budgets. But make sure you adjust your cap in 2, 3, 4 times higher.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's one of the things that, some people, everybody has different strategies. I would say, yes, raise your budgets. And if you don't want to raise your bids, right, if you say, I don't want my ACoS to be, this much higher or whatever, even though conversions could be better and maybe your ACoS is not going to be higher with a higher bid. But if you don't want to do that, then, there are certainly going to be people that run out of budget midday or later in the day where you still will be able to get impressions, even if you don't raise your bids. But if you want to have a full day of more visibility because, conversions are better, then, you would probably want to, raise your bid somewhat.
Yeah, your bids, yeah. But it's just trying to be, but be measured. Work out what your costs are. Look at the kind of budget you have to play with, because there's no point in doing really good on Black Friday only to burn through all of your budget and eat up not only your it's all right to break even on PPC and sell through organically, yeah, but what you don't want to be doing is overspending, taking your PPC budget, overspending, and taking all the margin out of your organic sales as well.
Yeah, and some things you can do, test higher pricing, because you can increase your budgets, increase your bid, but you can also probably get a higher price on Black Friday from those impulse buys than you're getting throughout the year. The fourth quarter is when I turn on Splitly every year. I've already turned it on, and I'm already charging higher prices through Profit Peak.
Yeah.
That allows me to, increase my budgets and my bids on PPC and still maintain a pretty good ACoS.
Yeah. And obviously the notion out there for most sellers who hold off, because we see this dip, we've seen it on some of the clients on the agency. You see this dip, it's like calm before the storm. But shoppers are aware they're doing their shopping for Christmas. So they're just assuming everything is on a discount. Whereas your price could be higher, but they're not privy to the previous price anyway. So you actually might sell for more when it's assumed that it's all discounted. Cleaning up underperforming campaigns and negating non-relevant search terms. What's your take?
Yeah. So you want to look at your campaign, especially if your PPC is not organized at all, and you have a lot of campaigns for like the same products. You kind of want to, like you said, I think you want to shut down those campaigns that are just might be pulling impressions away from your main campaigns, but are not performing as well. And so I think having an organized structure to how you do PPC, I think if you're targeting the same product, it's better to have much less campaigns than having more campaigns, because you're kind of spreading out your impressions. The algorithm isn't sure where to send the impressions. And if you have one really good optimized campaign for a product, that should be sort of your main campaign. In my opinion, I don't think you need to have more than 3 maybe campaigns. One thing to add, is that people are starting to show up with product display ads in PPC. Go set those up, because I've seen it now available on accounts that are not brand registered, don't have AMS obviously or anything, but within the manual keyword targeting, you now have this new thing called product beta, which is typically the old product display ads. You can target by interest category, and you can target directly on products on your competitors. Go set those up, especially if you just recently got them and you haven't had that on the AMS side. Go test those out. And my advice is isolate, up to like 5 target ASINs per campaign, so that you can shut off the ones that aren't performing and keep the ones that are, because Amazon doesn't give you the data on which target ASIN is performing well or not. So if you just throw in like 50 ASINs in one campaign and your ACoS isn't good, there's no way to optimize around it other than bid. So go ahead and I would say set up these product display ads, because that could be a really good thing. I often have very good results with targeting my competitors with product display.
Yeah, makes sense. The other thing is check you're in the correct browse node. I'm finding consistently that Amazon are just moving people from one browse node to another. There's like either whether they're doing it through an algorithm, like they're trying to pick up data through that way, or they're manual changes. But obviously, some people have the opportunity to move back to the browse node, or at least have the functionality to do so without moving back to the browse node. So then you've got to jump on, fight your way through the first wave of defense on Amazon to get to the catalog team and have a tear up there just to get moved. So it's very important, because that can be a real killer, being moved from one node to another.
And it can impact things like I've had it where, I have some costumes for kids, and Amazon sometimes will move the kids' costumes from clothing in toys. And there's different things that you could do in each one of those categories, and different character counts for the title. And suddenly my listing will get suppressed because I have too many characters from one to another. So paying attention to that kind of stuff definitely makes sense. And again, it's another reason why, and it's almost like I wish I was the founder of SentryKit, because I'm promoting it, but it's a good piece of software to have. I don't have any sort of benefit if somebody buys it or not, but good pieces of software to have for getting those notifications and keeping up, especially if you have a lot of SKUs. If you have 5 SKUs, you don't really need it. But if you have, like I have, close to 200 SKUs, it's definitely something I need to keep up with what's going on. And yeah, especially Amazon changing categories.
Yeah. Now I've got tools where I can see if a browse node's been changed as well. It's got like a history change. So that's where you can, because you don't always remember exactly what subnode that you put it in. So you don't want to keep jumping around the different nodes, but I use that as a point of reference as well to check on that.
And Danny, have we spoken about images at all?
I've got that coming up later. I was going to do that in part 2, if that's all right.
All right.
The next step was inventory. Right, which is the obvious one, but check for stranded inventory. This is something that you can't do much about leading up because of the timeline, but you still need to be aware of it, because you don't want to get to the day to find out that why didn't I sell so well? Then you realize that your inventory was reserved, or it's in FC processing, and etc.
Yep. And if you have a third-party warehouse and you have or your own warehouse and you have the capability to do merchant fulfilled, then maybe you want to turn on a merchant fulfilled, SKU in the back of your FBA. Maybe, especially if you've just sent stuff in and still in the process of being received, or if you haven't gotten it in time where you don't have enough inventory, you think, then you can have a merchant fulfilled SKU as a sort of your backup if you don't have the buy box on your FBA SKU. That's a really good strategy. Also, not necessarily for now, but that's a really good strategy around like December 20th, 21st. If you're sending inventory to FBA, it might not arrive there in time for people to order for Christmas, but you can utilize merchant fulfilled to get people, to order up until, a couple of days before, especially if you're using seller fulfilled Prime.
Yeah, makes total sense. Max order quantity. I think a lot of people forget about this when they're doing promos. They limit to like 1 or 2 units.
Yes.
To avoid having their inventory cleared out in terms of more orders per customer in that set order, is that they put that cap and forget about it. So if you need to, if people are going to buy multiples and you're doing a great discount, you don't want to restrict yourself there.
And Danny, do you still restrict it to a certain amount? Like sometimes I'll put like 30 units or something, just so I don't have a competitor come in and try to.
Yes.
I
don't have any products why anyone would buy more than 3 to 5 maximum. Because when you look at your average order value size over a history, you might have that product maybe 1 to 1.2 to 1.5. What that says to me is that, yeah, sure, you might miss out on someone who may buy 10. But that's a rarity, rare as hen's teeth. So I would rather restrict that down to, say, 2 to 3 units, just for peace of mind going into the future. Because you're right, if people want to reserve like that. But obviously there's some workarounds with that where you can reserve the inventory yourself, can't you, to stop it from going out. But you don't want to be dealing with that because it's a pain in the backside.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt. So, yeah, I limit mine to sometimes between 10 and 30 units. Just because, I don't want a competitor to mess with me, buy all my inventory and then damage it, return it, or, cause problems.
Exactly. Another thing you can't control, because there's a timeline for it, is review your shipped and received in your and look for discrepancies there. Now, obviously, there's a timeline to when you can contact them and say, right, this shipment's now closed. We can now resolve these things. Mm-hmm. It doesn't help you, but it does help you to know if you are short on stock and everything else, especially if you're doing all these different calculations. You're fully aware leading up to day whether, you have enough stock or there's going to be problems or not pending on that SKU.
I just had to send a nasty email to my third-party warehouse. I'm using 2 right now, saying, hey, stop sending stuff over 50 pounds. Make sure to check the boxes, because I just got my shipment suspended for 24 hours. For, sending in like a couple of boxes that were like 60 pounds. And they take it very seriously, apparently. So make sure your warehouses know the rules.
Yeah, what's the max is 63.5 inches off along one side, and it's 25 kilos, isn't it? What was the max weight per unit?
I think 25 inches is like the longest side of a box.
Yeah.
But 50 pounds is the maximum
50 pounds
weight. 50 pounds. Now, if you have one item in there, then you can have over 50 pounds, and you have to write team lift on the box. But if you have multiple items, you can't have over 50 pounds. And this is the first time this happened to me, but they suspended my shipping abilities for 24 hours, which isn't a big deal, but, it would be stupid to get like suspended over something like that. So,
yeah, I had a product freeze on a listing, and the FBA team sent me photos. It's just that my 3PL and it was only one. There must have been a new person working at the company. They'd put the label across the sleeve of the box, so people cut with the knife and cut through the barcode. So therefore, they couldn't scan it properly. So just be vigilant on stuff like that, because your 3PL or you're doing it yourself, there's this mass rush on. Everyone's under pressure. Like what you've just said, you've screamed at your company, giving them shit and giving them hell. They're probably getting that times 10 every day. So they're all rushing, they're all making mistakes and stuff like that. The most obvious one, like we just discussed there, if you're not switching over to merchant fulfilled, sending in loose carts, you may be a bit low on your inventory levels, but it's always worth checking those. By the time this gets to broadcast, you're still going to have lead time to send in products to Amazon. Yeah. But again, it's still going to be pretty tight,
Yes, and like you said, loose cartons is the way to ship is UPS, FedEx right now. LTL, I think you risk taking it longer time. So during Q4, we just ship in small parcel.
Cool. All right, let's hold it there, and then we'll come back for part 2. How can people reach you, etc.?
So we have a Facebook group, Amazing Freedom Amazon Sellers. We have a podcast, Amazon Seller Podcast, and you can find me on Facebook and my email, liran@amazingfreedom.com. One thing I do is I respond to every single person that contacts me. So,
good man. Cool. Guys, thanks for joining us. Liran, thank you for joining us. If this is your first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you again in the next few days. Take care.